Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm an editor here at AM, and today I will be talking to you about our forthcoming resource, the American Committee on Africa, Anti-Apartheid Movements and Democracy, which is currently due to publish in September. This is the second module of the American Committee on Africa resource, which follows the very recent publication of the first module, Liberation Movement, Solidarity and Activism, in November of last year. Founded in 1953, the American Committee on Africa, abbreviated conveniently to ACOA, was a non-governmental organization dedicated to supporting anti-colonial struggles in Africa and informing the American public about African affairs. Based in New York, it coordinated numerous initiatives in solidarity with African liberation movements in the second half of the 20th century. It hosted African leaders to speak in the US, lobbied the United Nations and the US government, raised funds, provided educational and medical support, published magazines, newsletters and pamphlets to raise awareness, and helped to campaign against major US banks and corporations from doing business with colonial regimes. ACOA staff also travelled extensively throughout Africa, attending conferences and visiting newly independent countries. The ACOA resource as a whole is a key source for the study of Africa's liberation movements, international solidarity, and activism in the 20th century, digitizing the records of the ACOA, which are now held at the Amistad Research Center in New Orleans. These records include a very broad range of material types, such as executive board minutes of the committee, key correspondence, various periodicals, pamphlets and posters produced by ACOA and other key organizations of the period, as well as photographs and films of various trips made by committee members to Africa. Module 2 contains over 1,900 documents and 400 minutes of film reels from those records, and will primarily explore the second phase of ACOA's history. This period began in 1981 when new director Jennifer Davis took the helm from George Hauser and turned ACOA's main focus to anti-apartheid struggles in her native country of South Africa, and it goes through to ACOA's later years and its eventual dissolvement in 2001, when it merged with a handful of sister organizations to become Africa Action. However, it's not limited to South Africa alone, and it also includes a range of material on countries such as Angola, Mozambique, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. It will be an excellent complementary resource to anyone who's enjoyed previous AM resources such as Apartheid South Africa, African American communities, slavery, abolition and social justice, or race relations in America. So to give you a little more insight into the resource, I'd like to share some of my personal highlights with you now. One thing that has struck me the most while working on this module of the ACOA resource is just how many campaigns and how many types of campaign actually that the ACOA was either directly involved in or supporting from the sidelines at any given moment. Although they weren't swimming in funding and rejected pleas to the ACOA for financial assistance are littered throughout the records, it's really evident that Jennifer Davis and her colleagues more than made up for this in sheer drive, willpower and time. They were involved in and monitoring a huge range of anti-apartheid, democracy and labour campaigns, supporting, for example, grassroots and student activism, formal divestment campaigns, religious aid efforts and sporting boycotts, to name but a few, active not only in local efforts in their home city of New York, but also nationally and internationally. One of my favourite windows into this is the very striking range of campaign artwork that you can find throughout ACOA's records, and of which you can get just a small taste in this slide. It's fascinating to see how campaigners used varying levels of resources to share information, evoke emotion, and inspire action. This artwork is, I think, really indicative of the strength and breadth of feeling in the United States against South African apartheid and other colonial regimes in Africa, placing the ACOA and its work in a much wider context of American activism. It demonstrates a sense of international camaraderie and responsibility that ACOA's legacy really embodies, and that's so clear to see in these records. And finally, I would like to highlight the plethora of key leaders and civil rights figures who are present in this resource, demonstrating the level at which ACOA was working. As an example, amongst these documents, as you'll see here, you'll find letters from people such as the renowned author and political activist Hilda Bernstein, who was co-founder of the Federation of South African Women. Also prolific trade unionist and member of the African National Congress, Tozamile Botha, written during his time in exile in Lesotho. And also Cleveland L. Robinson, Jamaican-American labor unionist and civil rights activist. These connections, which you will find in huge abundance throughout the resource, really embody Jennifer Davis's personal emphatic belief in global rights through global connection. Although South African apartheid is thankfully now only a memory, there is a lot that we can learn from those who worked so hard to bring about its end. And I think that students and researchers interested in US policy and attitude towards international human rights really can't fail to find food for thought in this resource. That's everything from me. Thank you all so much for listening.